Greetings, theists and non-theists. I'm the Atheist Paladin. It's been a while, and what got me to make a video is I want to respond to a video by FSX23. He's a great guy, cool channel, check him out. If you like me, you'll definitely love him. So, what he was responding to was Silverman talking about the problem of evil in the Garden of Eden with some no-name apologist I'm not even familiar with. And there's a few things I would like to address, and that were said that are not addressed by him or Silverman, of course. FX23 makes the same points that I do, particularly when it comes to the problem of evil and heaven. Cannot say that that there is a heaven if at the same time you cannot say the world cannot be created perfect, because heaven is exactly that, the same thing. And it's certainly inadequate when you say it is a sort of vaccination approach. In other words, that evil was allowed because we are being vaccinated against evil. But if you are a fundamentalist, and particularly take the Bible as literally true, then you actually cannot believe that, because Revelation strictly says that we will all forget. At least those who are saved will all forget about the world that was past. So that's very inadequate. But the points that I want to address are that, one, that God is somehow not culpable for the choices that we have, and that somehow in knowing, being all-knowing and knowing what actions you're going to take, that somehow yet your free will is not somehow undermined. With the first one, God being all-powerful and all-knowing, it's hard to say that God is somehow not culpable for certain actions. All you have to do is just start switching out names, and then the way people start acting becomes completely different. Say that I put a gun in a house to which I know there's a child, and I know for absolute certainty that this increases, even if I know this will increase the chances of the child of shooting himself, if not properly guarded against. So if this is the case, and it happens, and I make it so that these are the set of circumstances, then to say that somehow I'm not culpable, even though there are free agents in action when it comes to this, is completely absurd. It's the same thing with the whole Genesis fable, because in Genesis they are completely ignorant, and yet it's the humans that are completely culpable. They lack the knowledge of ideas of consequences and things, and then it's somehow their fault, even though God was the one who knew precisely what would happen and had the ability to change any circumstance. And the thing is that you would have to say that's true, that the world that we are experiencing is the best possible world, the best possible world out of all worlds. Because any world where one more person gets saved is obviously the slightly better world. And then that whole argument goes all the way to then why does anyone become lost at all? Because every person saved is an additional good thing, of course. But that's not what the Bible says, at least not in the end results. The Bible says that the majority will suffer a eternal torment, with only a few being granted eternal paradise. And somehow God saying this is somehow the best of all worlds is quite absurd, even though there were 99% of everybody gets into heaven and only one person somehow makes it to hell. I find that somehow still an intolerable set of circumstances, particularly if you believe in a eternal suffering. So this saying this is the best of all possible worlds and the best of all possible choices is not a good thing when it comes to Yahweh. So 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 let's go to the next point. The next point I want to address is that somehow knowing your future doesn't undermine your free will. So we agree. Let's just say at this very point, logical contradictions cannot be actualized. It's just not possible. And I think that somehow infallibly predicting the free will choices of free will agents, especially so well in advance in the future, thousands of years in the future, something as vastly complex as that, I think would undermine free will. Especially if you partake the view of a single world theory. If there's a multiple world theory, if you say that every world branches off at every decision point, then even the idea of infallible prediction is still logically impossible. Because if, let's say, I write a book and it infallibly predicts every different action, well, if in a meta worlds interpretation, there will be many number of worlds which will contain that still infallible predictions that actually became fallible in those worlds. Those worlds will contain the past of the book having the infallible prediction, while in the world that it somehow perfectly follows the infallible predictions comes out. So even though in one world I would infallibly predict, there will be infinitely number of other worlds I would fail. So even going to a sort of many worlds hypothesis or a middle ground knowledge still kind of fails in this respect. So what if there is only one world and you say that there are a infallible prediction of your actions? Then to say that somehow that you are freely capable of doing those actions becomes kind of absurd. But they say, well, God's knowledge doesn't force you. No, it's not the knowledge itself. Even if we would take to divorce God from his all-powerful abilities, and we're just saying we are being observed by simply an all-knowing God that is completely separate from us, sort of a deistic God, and still can infallibly predict our actions, then it's something there's some sort of still underlying structure that has to make this so. So it's not really the knowledge, but the knowledge is what reveals the underlying structure of that we really don't have any other way to go. So the only way to go is to say that God may be all-knowing, but at least not infallible, because that the infallibility is what screws the pooch. And he would have to sort of have a middle ground without the infallibility in order to know all the different worlds and how everything turns out. That is fine when it comes to me. But that's not how it is depicted in the Bible. God knows before you're even born. And it's really mind-blowing to think all the circumstances that got your parents together, your grandparents together, and your great-grandparents together, then all those little particular combinations of sperms and eggs meeting at particular moments in order to get the end product, namely you. This is a vastly complex system, and to say that before you're even born, everything that you'll ever known will be completely known is kind of absurd. And to say you have free will action. And any way for the free will to be known, or for it to be completely free, at least has to be free of an infallible prediction. So that's what I have to say according to the Problem of Evil video. So I hope you enjoyed my thoughts, and I'm having more video ideas coming up, so there'll be maybe something in the future. I don't know how long it will take me to get around to it, maybe even tomorrow. But life is complicated sometimes, but we'll see. So take peace, take care, and remember, rationality is the path to righteousness.